The void was silent. Silent, except for a faint, broken cry that drifted out into the endless darkness of space. The sound came from the shattered remains of a colony ship, a once proud vessel now torn apart like a child's toy. It floated among debris, twisted metal, drifting corpses, and burning fragments that slowly went cold. The colony ship Horizon Dawn had left Earth 3 months ago. It carried settlers, farmers, engineers, children, all dreaming of a new world. Now there was only death. The hull was torn open in 3 places, the engine core split apart, life support systems frozen. No beacons were working. No one was answering calls for help. But deep inside the broken ship, life still clung to a single breath, the cry in the darkness in the far rear section of the vessel. A survival pod lay wedged between 2 collapsed corridors. It was small, almost hidden by twisted beams. Inside it, a human infant lay wrapped in a torn emergency blanket. His tiny hands trembled, his cheeks were wet with tears, and his voice was raw from crying. He did not know that he was alone. He did not know that his parents' bodies lay only meters away, separated from him by a wall of metal and silence. The raiders who attacked the ship had shown no mercy. They took everything of value: fuel, weapons, supplies, and killed anyone who resisted. They had not bothered to search for a child. In their eyes, a baby was nothing. The pod's emergency systems had managed to keep him alive: heat, air. A faint hum of recycled oxygen, but the power was fading. The blinking light over his head grew dimmer each second. The stars outside were cold and endless. No human ship was near enough to save him, and yet, something else hurt his voice. Shadow that moved far beyond the wreck. Something vast drifted through the black. It moved without engines, its massive body blending with the shadows between the stars. To any scanner, it would have looked like a drifting asteroid. But it was alive. A dragon, not a creature of Earth's myths, but an alien species so ancient that most in the galaxy believed them extinct. Their bodies were the size of small warships, covered in living armor that shimmered with starlight. Their wings were not made for air, but for folding space itself. They could vanish and reappear light years away. This dragon was a queen. Her scales were black as obsidian, streaked with silver veins that pulsed like blood. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, and her mind reached out across the void like a whisper carried on a storm. She had been hunting, but not for prey. The queen's senses brushed against the drifting wreck. At first, she felt only death blood dried on cold steel, silence heavy as stone. But then, a sound, faint, weak, the voice of something still alive. Hatchling. Dragons did not forget the sound of a hatchling's cry. It was a call older than any star. The rescue the queen circled the wreck, her vast shadow covering what remained of the ship. She unfolded her wings, and space itself bent. With a slow, deliberate movement, she pressed one clawed limb against the shattered hull, peeling it open like a tin of food. Inside, she saw the pod. The baby's tiny eyes widened at the sudden light. His cry faltered for just a moment, replaced by a soft gasp. He had never seen anything so huge. The queen's head moved closer, her eye the size of his entire body. She sniffed once, scanning his scent, his heartbeat, his warmth. This was no dragon hatchling. Yet, he was alive, alone, unclaimed. Her kind had an ancient law. The unclaimed hatchling is ours to protect. With careful precision, she reached into the wreck, her claw acting like a cage around the pod. The baby's blanket slipped, and he shivered. The queen tilted her head, and for the first time in centuries, she spoke aloud in her deep, resonant language. "Little one, you are mine now." She lifted him free from the wreck and held him close to her chest, where the warmth of her living armor pulsed like a heartbeat. His crying stopped. He was warm, safe, he slept. Departure. The queen turned her head toward the distant stars. Somewhere out there humans lived. She had seen their ships before. She knew their greed, their wars, their hunger for territory. She had stayed far from them, but this one, this little human, would not go back to them. Not yet. She spread her wings. The black and silver membranes shimmered like liquid metal, folding the light around her. Then, with a single beat, she vanished space-folded. And the wreck of the horizon. Dawn was left behind. She carried the child into the realm of dragons. The caverns of fire. The journey lasted less than an instant. They emerged in the skies above. A world unlike any human had seen mountains of crystal, rivers of molten light, clouds of glowing dust that drifted like slow storms. The queen descended toward a massive canyon, its walls carved into spirals by centuries of wind and heat. At the canyon's base lay the dragon city, no buildings of stone or steel, but vast living structures grown from organic crystal, each shaped like a coiled wing. Other dragons rose to meet her, sleek hunters with emerald scales, broad guardians with armor as thick as battleship plating. Their eyes turned toward the bundle in her claws. A murmur rippled through their minds. A hatchling? No. A human dot. She landed on a high ledge and placed the child upon a bed of soft glowing moss. The warmth wrapped around him like a blanket. He stirred, opening his eyes to see the strange light. The queen lowered her head. He is unclaimed. He is mine. Some dragons hissed in disapproval. He is not one of us. He will grow teeth for war, not peace. He will bring humans here, but the queen's eyes burned with a deeper light. I decide. The hatchling stays. The first night that night, the queen lay curled around the child, her vast body forming a living wall against the cold air. Her breathing was deep and slow, her heartbeat steady. The child slept against her scales, one tiny hand gripping the edge of her armor dot in the dark beyond the canyon. The wind carried strange scents, storms, predators, and faraway thunder. But nothing dared approach the queen's ledge. Above them, the stars burned cold and bright. Somewhere among them, humans would one day learn that one of their own lived under dragon protection. And when they came, they would find the hatchling. Grown, not helpless, for now. He was only a sleeping child in the ashes of a tragedy. But the galaxy had already begun to change because of him. The years passed. The child who had once cried alone in the ashes of a ruined human ship was no longer a helpless infant. He had a name now. The queen called him Kale. A leap of faith. The sun over the dragon world was unlike any human sun. It burned. White gold, brighter than Kale could ever remember from the faded images of Earth in the queen's stories. Its light poured into the canyon, turning the crystal cliffs into walls of fire. Kale stood barefoot on the edge of a high ledge, his arms stretched wide. The wind roared past his ears. His hair, now long and dark, whipped across his face. Are you ready, hatchling? A deep voice rumbled from below. It was Razor, one of the younger dragons, though young in dragon terms meant nearly a century old. His emerald scales shimmered in the light, his wings half spread in readiness. Kale grinned. Always. And then he jumped. The drop was huge, at least 100 meters straight down. The rush of air hit him like a wave. His stomach twisted. His heart pounded. But he didn't scream. At the last second, Razor surged upward. His claws closed around Kale's torso, lifting him effortlessly into the air. They soared together over the canyon, the wind colder now, the smell of molten rivers drifting upward from below. Kale laughed wild, free. Again. Life in the cavern scale had grown up among dragons, and he had learned things no human had ever known. He could climb the crystal cliffs using natural grooves and hold himself steady against winds that could tear a small ship apart. He could read the shifting colors in a dragon's scales, understanding when they were angry, curious, or proud. He spoke their language, slow, rumbling words that came from deep in the chest. The queen was his mother in all but blood. Her name, in the dragon tongue, was Velthar, a keeper of the first flame. Her wings were vast, her presence like a living mountain. To Kale, she was safety itself. Each morning, he woke in the high moss chamber she had given him, the walls glowing faintly from the heat running through the rock. He ate fruit from crystal gardens and meat roasted over flame breath. By day, he trained climbing, swimming in molten pools with protective suits of living armor, learning the history of the dragon clans. But not all dragons welcomed him, whispering claws in the shadowed halls of the lower caverns. Whispers grew. "He is not one of us," hissed Krith, a black-scaled warrior whose wings were torn from old battles. "He will bring humans here. They will see him as theirs. And when they come, they will come with war," others agreed. Dragons had not forgotten the old wars times when human fleets had hunted them, driven them from their worlds, slaughtered hatchlings for trophies. Kale knew the whispers were there. He could feel the eyes on him when he walked through the market caves, where dragon artisans shaped crystal into weapons and tools. But he also knew there were those who stood beside him. Razor defended him openly. "If the queen says he is hers, then he is ours." The dragon seer Arendra sometimes stared at Kale with eyes like molten gold and murmured strange things. "The hatchling will either save us or destroy us." Kale didn't know what to make of that. The forbiddance. Chamber one evening, Kale followed Vale'thara deeper into the mountain than he had ever gone. They passed through narrow tunnels that opened into chambers filled with ancient relics, armor plates the size of ships, eggs that had turned to stone, weapons that glowed faintly even in darkness. "This," Vale'thara rumbled, "is the first nest. Our history lives here." Kale ran his fingers across a broken helmet clearly made for a human. He looked up at her. "This is human." She was silent for a long moment. "Yes, once humans came here. They came not as hatchlings but as hunters." She told him of the old war, how humans had discovered dragon worlds and wanted their living armor for their ships, their fire for their weapons, their bones for their tools. How fleets of metal had filled the skies, and the dragons had fought until their numbers were broken. Kale felt a twist in his stomach. If humans did this, why keep me? Vale'thara lowered her head until her glowing eyes met his. "Because you are not them, you are mine." The vision a week later, the seer Arendra called for him. Her chamber was filled with steam and the smell of burning herbs. She gestured for him to sit in a shallow pool of warm water. "I saw the first flame flicker," she said. "It has not flickered in 1,000 years. Kale frowned. "What does that mean?" She looked at him with that same molten stare. "It means change. The hatchling who walks as man will one day stand between fire and steel. One path will save us. The other will burn the stars." He swallowed hard. "And you think that's me?" She didn't answer directly. "Dream well, hatchling." The storm hunt life continued, but Kale could not forget the seer's words. He tried to lose himself in the hunt, soaring on Razor's back into the upper skies, chasing storm beasts that rode the winds like ships. They dived between lightning bolts, the air thick with the smell of ozone. Kale's heart pounded with exhilaration as they closed in on their prey. But halfway through the hunt, Razor froze in mid-flight, wings flaring. "Kale," he growled, "look." Far above the clouds, a faint glimmer moved too straight, too steady to be natural. A ship. Not dragon, not storm beast. Not any craft Kale had seen before. His stomach went cold. The council that night, the council gathered in the grand cavern. Dozens of dragons formed a half-circle around the queen's ledge. The air was tense. Razor spoke first. "The sky holds watchers. A craft of metal, small but swift. It leaves no trail." Krith hissed. "Humans, they found us." Vale'thara's gaze moved slowly over the gathering. "No human ship has breached our skies in centuries. We will not leap to fear." But Kale's thoughts spun. He remembered the human helmet in the first nest, the seer's warning, the glimmer in the clouds. And for the first time in his life, he wondered, If they come, will they take me? The secret plan late that night, as Kale returned to his chamber, he heard voices echoing from a side tunnel. He stopped, keeping to the shadows. It was Krith. He must be sent away. The humans will follow his scent like blood in water. If we cast him into the outer wilds, they will not find this place. Another dragon murmured agreement. Kale's chest tightened. Sent away? Cast out? The thought was like a blade in his ribs. He turned and slipped silently into the darkness. His mind a storm. End of part 2. The next morning, Kale stood again on the canyon ledge, looking out at the horizon. The crystal mountains gleamed in the sun. The rivers of molten light flowed as they always had. But he could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. Far above, beyond the clouds, something was watching, and it was coming for him. The night was quiet in the dragon world. Too quiet. Kale stood on the high balcony of the Queen's Ledge, looking toward the sky. The moonlight touched the crystal mountains, making them glow like silver blades. He could hear the river of molten light far below, its slow roar mixing with the distant hiss of the wind. But above, the stars seemed different, brighter, restless. He had felt it for days now, that strange tension in the air, as if something beyond the clouds was holding its breath. Far away, the human fleet hundreds of light years away. Inside the command deck of a sleek human warship, Captain Arlen Voss stared at the holographic display before him. The image was grainy, but clear enough, an aerial scan of a canyon on an uncharted world. And in that canyon, a human figure. He turned to his second officer. Run the scan again. Tell me this is a mistake. No mistake, sir. It's a human. Age estimate: 15 to 17 years. Voss leaned back in his chair. A human, on a dragon world. The bridge crew fell silent. Everyone knew the stories. Dragons were ancient predators, the kind that could swallow a battleship whole. Humans had fought them centuries ago and barely survived. Contact had been avoided ever since. The officer swallowed. Sir, what do we do? Voss's eyes narrowed. We bring him home. The Queen's warning back on the dragon world. Kale was summoned to Vaelthara's private chamber. The Queen lay coiled on a bed of glowing crystal, her head lowered as he entered. You have seen them, she said without question. Kale hesitated. The glimmer in the clouds. Yes, they are human ships. The words hit him like a stone. His pulse quickened. Humans? Why would they have found you? Her voice was deep, slow. They will come for you. And when they do, they will not ask. They will take. Kale clenched his fists. But I'm human too. Aren't I supposed to go with them? Her eyes burned brighter. You are mine. They will not understand that. To them, you are an asset, a tool, perhaps even a weapon. He tried to speak, but she raised her head sharply. Kale, if you leave with them, you will not be safe, and neither will we. The human arrival 3 days later, the sky broke. Kale was training with Rezer in the upper cliffs when the sound came, a deep, throbbing hum that rolled across the mountains. They looked up to see the clouds split apart by the black shape of the human frigate. It descended slowly, engines glowing blue, its metal hull sharp against the white gold sky. Rezer growled. They dare land here? The ship settled in the wide canyon floor, its landing struts sinking into the stone. A ramp extended, and a squad of human soldiers marched out, armor gleaming, weapons ready. Kale's heart pounded as he saw their faces. They looked like him. They were him. First contact, the soldiers advanced cautiously. At their front was Captain Voss, his eyes scanning the cliffs until they landed on Kale. There, he called. That's him. Kale froze. Rezer stepped in. Front of him, his massive body shielding Kale completely. Stay back, humans, he growled. You are not welcome. Voss raised a hand. We're not here to fight. We're here for the boy. I am no boy, Kale said sharply. stepping forward so they could see his face. "My name is Kale, and this is my home." Voss studied him. "Your home? Do you even know what you are? You're human, Kale. One of us, we came to take you back." The Queen's voice thundered from above, echoing through the canyon. "He is mine." The soldiers froze as Valthera descended from the cliff, her wings folding around her like a shroud. She towered over them, her scales black as night. "This is not your world," she rumbled. "Leave." Voss met her gaze. "We can't do that. He belongs with his own kind." "His kind," Valthera said, "is dragon." The tension Kale felt torn in two. He looked at the humans, people who looked like him, spoke like him, moved like him. And he looked at Valthera, the only mother he had ever known. "What do you want from me?" Kale asked. Voss's expression softened just slightly. "You deserve to know who you are, to know the truth about your past, your parents. They were killed when your ship was attacked. We thought all of you were gone. Finding you is a miracle." Kale's chest tightened. His parents. His real parents. Valthera's voice cut through the air. "Humans speak of miracles when they mean possession. They do not come to give, they come to take." The soldiers shifted, hands on weapons. Razor moved closer to Kale, growling low. The air between both sides was electric, ready to explode. The Offervoss took a slow step forward. "Kale, come with us just for a short time, see our world. Learn your history. Then, if you wish, you can return here. I give you my word." Valthera's tail lashed against the stone. "And when you have him, what will you do? Hide him? Train him? Use him?" Voss didn't answer. His silence was enough. Kale swallowed hard. "Why do you want me so badly?" Voss hesitated. "Because you're not just any human. Your bloodline is special. There's something in your DNA. Something the Raiders fear." The word Raiders made Kale flinch. The decision that night. Kale sat alone on the ledge, staring at the stars. He could hear the dragons speaking in the distance, their voices low and tense. The humans had not left. Their ship still sat in the canyon like a steel beast, silent but watching. He thought of the human faces, of Voss's words, of his parents' deaths. He thought of Valthera's warning, of the seer's prophecy. Two worlds, two truths, and both wanted him. The storm at dawn, the sky turned blood red. Kale woke to the sound of alarms deep. Booming dragon calls echoing through the canyon. From the cliffs, he saw another ship descending. But this one was different. Black armored, jagged, bristling with weapons. The Raiders. The humans scrambled to their positions, weapons drawn. The dragons took to the skies, wings slicing through the air. Voss shouted up to Kale. "Now you see why we came. They're after you." Kale's heart raced. The Raiders had killed his parents. And now they had come for him. Valthera landed beside him, her eyes burning. "Stay behind me." But Kale shook his head. "No, this time I fight." The dragons had always warned him. "Someday the sky will burn again," Rither told Kale, his voice low and deep like rolling thunder. "When that happens, you must choose who you are, human or dragon." Kale didn't understand back then. He was only 12, strong from climbing mountain cliffs, fast from running through the canyons, but still a child in the eyes of the dragons. He thought the burning sky was just a story to scare hatchlings, but now he saw it. A line of fire stretched across the horizon, so far yet so clear, moving like a slow wave of molten light. The clouds were not clouds anymore. They were thick with smoke, twisted into dark spirals. The ground trembled under his feet. The sky was burning. It was not nature's doing. Far above, dozens of metal ships cut through the clouds. They were not dragon ships, not the sleek silver sails of the High Wind clans. These were brutal and ugly, shaped like knives and claws, black metal with glowing red lines running across their hulls. Kale's heart pounded. He had seen drawings of them before, deep in the dragon's library, ships of war. The same kind that had destroyed his birth village years ago. The same kind that had left him to die in the ashes. Rither landed beside him with a heavy thud, his massive wings folding like steel doors. Smoke curled from his nostrils as his golden eyes locked on the burning horizon. "They've come," Rither growled. "Humans." Kale flinched. "Humans? No, they can't be." His voice cracked. "Not your humans, hatchling," Rither said. "Not the farmers, not the children. These are the Sky Clans. They take, they burn, they kill. And they will come for you." A roar echoed from the Wea mountain peak as other dragons took flight, massive wings beating the air in unison. Their scales shone like molten metal, their claws glinted like blades. The air shook with their fury. Kale's stomach tightened. The dragons had always been untouchable in his eyes, giants of fire and sky. But now, watching them, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear for them, because he could see the enemy ships changing formation, moving into attack lines. The dragons were powerful, yes. But these ships had weapons built to kill even the strongest of them. Kale's mind raced. If the Sky Clans were here, were they here for him? He remembered the night of his birth village's destruction. The shadows, the screams, the flames so hot they turned stone to glass. He had seen soldiers in black armor carrying banners marked with the same crimson lines now glowing on those warships. That was no accident. They had tracked him. The first strike came without warning. Bright beam of red energy shot from one of the ships, slamming into the cliffside. The mountain shook violently, rocks tumbling into the valley below. The heat hit Kale like a punch, forcing him to stumble back. The dragons roared in answer, spitting streams of fire toward the enemy. The air filled with the deafening clash of flame and steel, the sharp hiss of energy bolts ripping through the sky. Kale stood frozen for a moment, until Rither's voice cut through the chaos. "Move, hatchling, to the inner caves." Kale ran, his legs burning with effort. But as he reached the cave mouth, he stopped. Something inside him wouldn't let him hide. He turned back and saw it, a dragon falling from the sky. Her wings were shredded, her body smoking from where the beam had hit. She crashed onto the slope. Sliding toward the edge, without thinking, Kale sprinted toward her. The heat was unbearable, the air filled with ash, but he pushed on. He grabbed her talon, bracing himself against the rocks. "I've got you," he shouted, though his voice was drowned by the battle above. The dragon's golden eye opened, focusing on him. She tried to speak, but only coughed black smoke. A shadow passed over them. Kale looked up and his blood turned to ice. One of the ships had broken formation and was descending, its massive shape blotting out the sun. It didn't fire. Not yet. Instead, a deep, mechanical voice boomed from it. "Target located. Human genetic signature confirmed." Kale's breath caught. They were here for him, the dragons. They were dying for him. Before the ship could act, a massive roar shook, the air louder than any before. Rither slammed into the ship's side, claws tearing into its hull like a predator ripping open prey. Sparks exploded, and the warship tilted violently, crashing into the mountainside with a deafening blast. The shockwave knocked Kale back, and he lost his grip on the injured dragon. She slid toward the cliff's edge again. Kale scrambled forward, throwing himself down to grab her talon once more. This time, Rither landed beside them, curling his body protectively around them both. "Up, hatchling," he barked, gripping Kale in one talon and the injured dragon in the other. His massive wings beat the air, lifting them into the sky. From above, Kale saw the true scale of the battle. Dozens of dragons fought desperately against the swarm of ships. The sky was a storm of fire, smoke, and metal. Every time a dragon brought down a ship, two more appeared. And far in the distance, he saw it, a massive flagship, larger than the mountain itself, slowly approaching. Its surface bristled with weapons, and painted across its black hull was a single crimson mark, a broken circle with 3 jagged lines, the same mark he had seen. On the banners of the soldiers who had killed his family, the same mark that had haunted his dreams for years. Cale's hands clenched. They weren't going to stop. Not until they had him. And for the first time, he understood Rither's words. Would have to choose who he was, human or dragon. The sky was a canvas of fire. Crimson streaks cut across clouds that swirled like molten metal. Dragons screamed as they dived, their wings slicing the wind. Ships of black steel fired beams of energy that tore through mountains and rivers alike. And in the center of it all stood Cale. He was no longer the scared child left behind in the ashes. His hair was long, dark, tangled with firelight. His eyes burned with a determination that no human had ever seen before. Around him, dragons circled protectively. At his side, Rither and the injured dragon from the cliff, now fully recovered. Wings flaring, claws gleaming, the enemy flagship loomed above, its hull jagged, glowing with red runes that pulsed with deadly energy. Cale could feel it, every line, every weapon, every intent. They were here for him. He drew a deep breath. This was the moment. The alliance before the battle could fully erupt, Cale shouted. His voice carried across the canyon, strange and human, yet powerful in its authority. Dragons, humans, listen. The air fell silent for a moment. Even the warships seemed to pause. Cale raised his hands. We can't fight each other. Not now. If we do, we die together. But if we fight as one, we can end this. The raiders are coming for all of us. Not just me. Not just the dragons. They want to destroy every world in their path. He turned to Voss and the human soldiers. You've come to take me, yes? But if you fight with me, you can survive. We can survive. The dragons are not our enemies. Voss studied him, his brow furrowed. Then he nodded. Slowly. You speak wisely, boy. Then we fight together. The dragons murmured, the sound of their wings creating a low hum that shook the mountains. Rither growled softly. The hatchling speaks truth. We will follow him. For the first time, dragons and humans prepared to fight side by side. The charged Cale leaped from the cliff ledge, flaring his arms like a winged creature. In his hand, he held a crystal blade he had forged with dragon fire, a weapon that could cut through steel and energy alike. Below, the black ships moved in attack formation. Energy cannons rotated, targeting dragons and humans alike. Cale screamed a battle cry and charged. Behind him, dragons followed, their bodies forming a wall of fire, wings beating storms into the air. Human fighters fired lasers from hover suits, shooting between dragon wings, hitting enemy ships with precision strikes. The first collision was violent. A dragon slammed into a frigate, claws rending the hull. Explosions rippled through the sky. Another ship fired a beam, catching the human soldier midair, but Cale reacted, deflecting the energy with a shard of dragon-forged crystal. The beam scattered into sparks. Above, the flagship glowed brighter, its runes pulsing faster. Cale realized the leader of the raiders was focusing all power on him. The strategy Cale landed on a floating rock near the flagship's side, the heat of its engines baking his skin. Rither landed beside him. What now? The dragon asked, claws digging into stone. Cale studied the ship. Its energy shields pulsed rhythmically. We attack when it reloads. There is a moment, only a moment. That is our chance. He turned to the humans. You cover the skies, shoot the engines, disable their mobility. Then I strike the heart. The humans moved swiftly, diving into formation. Lasers rained on the raider ship, beams reflecting off. Dragon scales like a storm of fire and light. Cale jumped from the rock onto the flagship's hull. Sparks flew where his crystal blade met armor. The metal was scorching hot, but the blade, fueled by dragon fire, cut deeper than any human weapon ever could. The face of the enemy inside the flagship, Kale found the Raider commander a towering figure in black armor, his face hidden behind a mask that glowed with red veins. "You are the hatchling," the commander hissed. "I've waited for this day. You and your dragons will die." Kale raised his blade. "I am not just a hatchling. I am both human and dragon. And you will not touch us." The fight was brutal. Energy. Bolts clashed against the crystal blade, sparks flying into the dark interior of the ship. Kale ducked under a swinging energy whip and sliced the commander's armor at the joint, sparks flying. The Raider roared and lunged, claws aimed to crush. Leaped aside, slashing at the control panels. Sparks and flames erupted, and the ship's engines shuddered violently. The turning point outside, dragons and humans fought like one organism. Kale watched as Rither dove through enemy lines, twisting ships into explosions. Smaller dragons carried human soldiers, allowing them to fire on the Raiders from positions no one could have imagined. Kale realized the prophecy. The seer had spoken. The hatchling will either save us or destroy us. This was his choice. He could flee, leave the humans and dragons to die, or fight, risk everything, and save them. He clenched his jaw. He chose to fight. The final strike. Kale climbed to the highest point of the flagship. Sparks and fire everywhere, alarms blaring. The Raider commander lunged at him again, energy whip ready. Kale called on the dragon power inside him, the bond he had formed with Valthara and Rither. The blade glowed bright, brighter than ever. He dodged, spun, and drove it straight into the core of the ship. The explosion was instantaneous. Energy erupted, tearing the ship apart from inside. Red fire and black smoke spewed into the sky. The flagship's shields failed, and the smaller Raider ships faltered. Confused and leaderless docked below, dragons and humans cheered or roared. The tide had turned. Aftermath. Kale landed on a safe cliff as the enemy ships fled into space, broken and defeated. Dragons circled him, their wings casting shadows over the burning canyon. Humans approached cautiously, still wary but trusting him. Now. Vos stepped forward. "You saved all of us." Kale's chest rose and fell. "We saved each other," he said. Valthara landed beside him, her massive wings folding. She lowered her head until their foreheads touched, a gesture of pride, affection, and warning. "You are both human and dragon. Remember this. You are a bridge between worlds." Kale looked at the canyon, at the rivers of molten light, at the charred remains of Raider ships, and felt something he had never felt before. Peace. In power. He had survived the ashes. He had been raised among dragons. Now he had forged his own path. The galaxy had changed, and so had he.